All right, welcome everyone. We're excited to see you here. We have got some great guests lined up today to share updates, demos, and some exciting announcements. So first up, you'll hear from our very own Maggie, who's going to walk us through the DataHub roadmap update. After that, we'll hand it over to our awesome UX designers, Paulina and Anna, to talk about something that's top of mind for everybody, the new DataHub 1.0 UX. This is a pretty major update, and our two in-house experts are going to be here to take us through the exciting changes that you'll see. Then we'll switch gears a bit. We've got some very interesting updates coming from our friends at Block. Harshal from the DataHub team will be joining them to dive into some of these exciting developments. And to help us recap all the highlights from today and close out our town hall, we'll hear from our CTO and co-founder, Shirshanka. So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A here or head over to Slack to get talking with an expert. So before we get too far, quick reminder that just a little over a month ago, we announced DataHub 1.0. Check out the blog and the videos that will be dropping into the chat to learn more about all the great stuff that's included in this big milestone release. And feel free to check out this quick video that highlights how the DataHub project started and how it's been growing.
Data Hub is an important component of our infrastructure.
My excitement about this tool is like literally contagious. I adore this. It is, to me, just mind-blowingly good.
We were able to smoothly migrate onto DataHub and turned off our in-house lineage tool to consolidate all of our data discovery efforts into DataHub.
We find the DataHub best fit our requirement. Also, thanks to DataHub extendability, we extend the DataHub model to support our data element.
Yay! Exciting times! All right, so now let's hand it over to Maggie to walk us through updates on the DataHub roadmap to see what's been going on since our last update at the 1.0 launch in January. Over to you, Maggie.
Amazing. Thank you, Rose. Hello, everybody. If we have not met, I'm Maggie. I'm the founding product manager for DataHub. Very excited to walk y'all through what we've been up to. So, okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So if you were at our DataHub 1.0 kind of release or announcement event in January, the slides you're going to see will look familiar. Basically, what we're going to do is walk you through just an update of where things are going or how things are going and what we're kind of working towards. So when we think about what we're shipping or what we're building within DataHub, we break it into 3 different pillars, or actually, excuse me, 4 different pillars. So first and foremost is discovery. We want to make sure that end users are able to discover and leverage relevant data assets. Of course, there's governance. So anything related to making sure that your assets are well documented, well classified, meeting compliance and regulations. Observability. So really bringing in that unified view of all of the data assets in your ecosystem, and also the observability or the quality signals within that. And then at its core is our metadata graph, or what, with our DataHub platform, where we're really just really making sure that all 3 of those pillars are really well supported. So we'll go through some initiatives for each of these pillars, and we'll start off with discovery. So in 2025, on the discovery front, we're focused on 3 key areas. One is human-centered insights, so making sure that we effectively capture human context around data. Intelligent exploration, so that when you're looking for data assets, you have all of that really rich context, either technical metadata or logical metadata, or that human context right next to you. And then, of course, end-to-end lineage. We all know that for folks who've used DataHub before, that lineage is really the backbone, or really one of the core features that folks really leverage. So we're always looking for ways to make that more robust, more reliable, and easy to navigate. So on our development front, we're continuing to build out new integrations with data stores. Of course, in our industry, you blink and there's 50 new data tools out there for you to integrate with. So this is kind of always an evergreen space for us, where we will continue to both refine and make sure that we're evolving with our existing integrations, but also expanding that pool. So since we last checked in, we've shipped a few of our targeted integrations. So number 1 is MLflow. Next, on CockroachDB and DynamoDB, we shipped some pretty big improvements to those 2 connectors. We currently have Hex and Vertex AI in development. We expect those to ship within the next month or so. And then down the line, we have queued up Cloud Dataflow, Azure Data Lake, and Azure Synapse. If there are additional connectors that you're interested in learning about, or if you want to contribute those back, please always feel free to reach out to me in Slack, and we can have that conversation. On the lineage front, so up next in our roadmap will be hierarchical lineage. So this is a way, lineage graphs, if you've been in the weeds of, kind of maintaining or creating data pipelines, you know that lineage graphs can get extremely complicated extremely fast. So what we want to do is really surface or provide the ability for folks to kind of zoom out on those very granular graphs and understand your lineage at a kind of snapshot level. So that could be platform to platform, schema to schema, or also kind of introducing logical lineage. So a logical hierarchical lineage, excuse me. So really understanding how all of these pieces fit together between data products and domains, or like glossary terms, etc. So this is really, like I said, just kind of the zoom out of a lineage graph, so that you can kind of see your entire ecosystem at a glance. Later this year, so we're targeting the second half of 2025. We want to reiterate that this is coming, and this is on our radar. We're going to be introducing a metrics catalog. So basically expanding on our existing glossary term support, but making it easy for folks to register, associate, and document key metrics within DataHub. So if this is, I know that there's been a ton of chat or a lot of buzz in the community. I've had a lot of folks reach out to me wanting to partner on this, or just kind of keep tabs on this one. So please do know that this is coming in the second half of the year, and we'll absolutely be soliciting your feedback so that we can make sure that this is a well-designed feature for your use case. Moving on to our governance pillar, the 3 areas of focus for this year are universal data discovery, so visibility into every data set, every AI model, every transformation, every dashboard, making sure that we have are treating DataHub as that our universal data registry. Next is our centralized compliance. So ensuring that DataHub is well positioned to be that central spot for ownership, documented purpose. So for folks who are adhering to GDPR regulations, you know that you need your documented purpose, PII classification, all in one place. And then last but not least, policy enforcement. So once you've already done that hard work of annotating or classifying your assets, making sure that propagates out to the source so you can actually enforce those policies. So currently in development, we are working on tag and glossary terms sync back into external platforms. So what does that mean? It means if you go into DataHub and you start classifying either a data set or a column maybe as highly confidential or has PII, you've already done that work. So let's push that out to your source. So currently we are putting our final touches on open sourcing our Snowflake bidirectional sync. And then next up will be Google BigQuery and DBT. I will call out for folks who are on DataHub Cloud, these three are already available to you. So if you want to start working with those, please reach out to your Acroll teammate and we will help you get set up. Later on in the year, we're going to be working on kind of parent-child assets or logical data sets. So really what this means is kind of having a singular definition of a data set and then associating it with its various kind of materialized layers. So we see this a lot, particularly in kind of the prod to warehouse production flow, where you're basically, you're replicating the exact same data set, it's just materialized in various places. So the idea here is that you can manage definitions or terms or tags at that kind of parent level and then propagate that down to the children. So like I said, this will be coming in the second half of the year. On to the observability front, our key focuses here are making sure that observability is accessible so that we're democratizing data quality by making it understandable by all of DataHub users. Making sure that observability is collaborative. So we'll have treating DataHub as that centralized tracking, communication, and resolution of data quality incidents layer. And then also contextual, so that when you're responding to an incident or you're responding to a data quality issue, you have that really robust context of how it's used, how it's produced, et cetera. So in DataHub 1.0, we actually we were able to ship this out, our improvements to our assertions. So in this, when you are populating assertion outcomes into DataHub, you can now easily search, filter, excuse me, and group those data quality checks as well as view your historical context. So just making that much easier to navigate, particularly when there's a large volume of assertions. Currently in development, we are working on an enriched incidents flow. So this is where in DataHub, in addition to creating an incident, you can also set its priority, manage its stage, add assignees, and then see that full history log all in one place. Moving on to the platform. So the part of our open source project that handles all of these three pillars. Our areas of focus for this year are, number one, our APIs and SDKs. So we want to make sure that there's really robust mechanisms for developers to automate the registration, the enrichment, and the retrieval of data assets within DataHub. Quality of service, we want to make sure that those are really delightful experiences for our developers. And then last but not least, audit logging and tracing. So making sure that where there's kind of important user activity events, so actions made within DataHub itself and where you need an actual audit trail for it, we're increasing our operational traceability of those events. Notably, we are currently working on improvements to our Python SDK. So if you see any announcements or notes around our Python SDK v2, this is what we're talking about. So at a high level, these APIs are for registering, enriching, and retrieving data assets in DataHub. So getting those data assets in, making sure that they're well covered with their metadata enrichment, and then pulling it out for use in external systems as necessary. So we have already shipped our search and dataset SDKs. So just much more simplified and streamlined and performant options there. We're currently working on our lineage SDK, excuse me. And then coming after will be a big uplift to our docs to make sure that there's high visibility and understandability of these improvements. And then up next, we'll have our AI SDK. So you can think of this as a way to make sure that you have really robust and high coverage of mapping your AI tooling and systems back into DataHub. Up next, the one other thing on our platform side is our service accounts. So we'll be introducing service accounts for teams to create and manage programmatic workflows and custom automations. This is really, really useful for folks who are working on larger teams and handling or managing DataHub at scale. So that way you can have kind of dedicated service accounts that aren't tied to an individual user and instead are associated to kind of ownership by a team. So I know I covered a lot in that. So this is, kind of our all of our initiatives at a high level glance of where they sit within each of those pillars, where they are in their development cycle, and when we have those planned. We are always excited for feedback, for collaboration, and any input along the way. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. And we'll be sure to keep folks updated both on our blog, in DataHub Slack, and via our email newsletter. So with that, Rose, I will hand it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you
much.
Thank you, Maggie. That was a really helpful update. And we're looking forward to learning more at future town halls as we go through the year. And speaking of future roadmap updates, we did run a short poll asking you all what you would like to see in terms of updates on open source DataHub, as well as DataHub Cloud. And it looks like there's a lot of interest in some DataHub Cloud updates in addition to open source. So we'll look at adding those in the future. But we also did have a few folks asking what DataHub Cloud is. So just really quickly, it is a managed service with additional capabilities on top of open source DataHub. And you can head over to datahubproject.io/cloud to learn more there. Then moving right along in our agenda for the day, we do have our very talented in-house UX designers joining next to share a deep dive, insights, and a tour of the new DataHub 1.0 UX. So please help me welcome Paulina and Anna.
Hi, everyone. Hey, DataHub community. I'm so excited to be here representing design and product with DataHub and to share some of the latest updates on 1.0 with the community. So first, I'd like to share some of our initiatives in product design within DataHub. And I'm really excited to introduce to you just how have we been evolving product design within DataHub. So obviously, as you've noticed, DataHub has invested in product design over the last couple of years, and obviously 1.0 being one of those big initiatives. And an investment in design is really an investment in the success of you, our community. So as we continue to evolve a highly usable product for your users in our community, we also want to shift over to a highly lovable product by design. So why product design? So engineering recognizes that design encourages innovation and also fosters a culture of continuous improvement. But that also plays a big role in the desire of the use of the product. So moving forward, our designers are committed to using data and user feedback to inform design decisions within the product and also continuously improve the product. So like I mentioned before, I'm Paulina Vargas. I am the lead product designer here with DataHub. I've been with the organization a little bit over a year. I have a passion for data-driven products. I've worked in data visualization experiences, highly invested in user research, and I also form a big part of product strategy, and I am joined by Anna.
Hey everyone, I'm Anna Everhart, a product designer at DataHub. I've been working here for about 8 months now, and I work on our design system and some of our coolest features. So today I'll get to show you how our design philosophy shapes our product. Like Paulina said, we really are investing in product design. So with that, we had to create a design philosophy. And we started to use keep it simple as our North Star, meaning if the element doesn't serve a clear purpose, let's get rid of it. Some of our principles are feedback fuels quality, simplicity above all, consistency is key, and iterate and improve. And this is baked into everything. So on that note of consistency is key, we have started building a design system, which is super exciting news. We've actually never had an established design system, and now we do in both Figma and Storybook. This is a journey and a huge lift from our dev team. And from a design perspective, we really started by establishing tokens, which led to a bunch of changes for our dev team. And we've also established principles for our components, and we've documented how they should be used moving forward for our design team as well as our developers. So I'm going to show you some of our Storybook. Cool. So Here we have our storybook. Again, I just want to reiterate that this is a huge work in progress, and it's been a commitment from our dev team. So I don't want to undersell that of how much change has had to happen because of this, and because again of that principle, consistency is key. So you'll start to see some small changes like our colors, right? We have established design tokens. You'll start seeing buttons throughout the app change from those blue buttons to those purple buttons, and other things like established spacing, icons, inputs, charts. All that stuff has been built by our developers, and it's also in our Figma design system as well. Again, this is an absolute work in progress, but our team is committed to doing hotfix every week. And every new release, you should be seeing minor UI updates that are fueled by our principles. Again, this will hopefully get us to a point where we're going to get to light mode and dark mode, which I think is very exciting and a lot of people have asked for. So now I'm going to jump into how our design principles have directly informed our new features. So we're going to start with the navigation bar. This was a huge change for us here at DataHub, and this really goes into the principle of simplicity above all. So as you can see here, we have this giant purple nav bar, and I say giant because it's very heavy visually. It stands out amongst everything else on the page, and the critical navigation elements were buried in the nav bar. So we actually heard a lot of feedback from our users, and we saw that they had difficulty finding nested elements. If they were going in here, this nested menu was disappearing, and it was frustrating users. So we listened and we made changes. Now we have this beautiful nav bar, as you can see here, and this is really starting to implement that consistency where you have those purples. We have highlights so you know exactly which page you're on. You can go throughout the app very easily without having to remember where you are because you can see it, unlike the other nav bar. So we really cleaned this up. And again, this was a huge change for us, and we're really excited about it. And any new features you will start to see will start to have these styles applied, these highlights, again, keeping it very consistent throughout the platform. Now let's talk about structured properties, another change. So we initially released structured properties earlier this year, and we didn't hear anything until we heard that our users wanted to see their properties displayed. So we listened, right? Another one of our principles is feedback fuels quality. So we listened. We heard that our users were saying like, hey, our properties are getting lost. They're really hard to find. And users wanted that flexibility in how properties were displayed in different areas. So now when you create a structured property, again, this is using our components, you can actually decide where your structured properties are displayed. And this enhances the flexibility of properties throughout the product. So you can see it here in your search, and you can see it here in the entity sidebar. So because of your feedback, we are constantly improving DataHub, which I think is super exciting. So beware of those small UI changes you'll see come through. That is due to our incredible dev team. So thank you so much. And now I can hand it off to Paulina, who can discuss how our principles and design system have shaped our stats tab.
Hi, everyone. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen some previews to the stat tab in 1.0. So one of the things we did here for the feature of the product is more analytics and insights on my data. So going back to our principles, consistency.
Paulina, you're not sharing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it working now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Sorry about that, team. Okay, yeah. So going back to our principles consistency, so creating a graphing library within the design system, which Anna had just introduced you to, we created a variety of different graphing and visualization graphics that could be used throughout the product to represent different insights about the data. And one of the really neat things that came out of it was one of our other principles is iterate and improve, which is we go through different phases of validation. And one of the examples is this waffle chart that really came to life out of different iterations. So as you can see, I'm sharing the progression here on the right side, where the where the table evolved. So from a very high dense, high volume data chart, which could represent a variety of things, down to a data chart that was a little bit more condensed and could show markers of different events and different change history throughout for an asset. And finally, to this monochrome dense visualization, which just showed different densities of impact of change to an asset throughout the chart. So again, these are some of the things that we're testing, and we're doing a little behind the scenes look into how every single aspect of some of the new features is being evolved. And then this you will ultimately get to see within our new stats tab and panel, which was really a huge labor of love within product to help paint a better picture of the data. And we wanted to make sure users had an aggregate look of all the data and information available to them on our backend about the progression and the volume and performance of their data. So in the future, we hope to get more discoveries around these insights that users want and be able to populate them throughout the product with those little visualization cards and with those insights that I know are so valuable to our users. And it wouldn't be a 1.0 presentation without a demo. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what this looks like in the product. So again, one new neat thing that you'll see here is the stats tab that was there before, but now it looks completely different. And if you were in the last 1.0 reveal, you got to see some really exciting things. Like this highlight section at the top, which again, like Anna mentioned, we have some really nice interactions and quick accessible experiences. You can see latest data, last data. You can also use it to navigate. So when I click on view here, it takes me directly to these different hops me to the different sections of the page of visualization. To help me discover or navigate me directly. We added some really fun interactions to the graph where you can see exactly data points of insights mapped on the graph. We also have obviously our new table, which is really exciting, and we're expanding throughout the product. You also see a variety of different graphs here, like a bar graph, which can be not only in a hover state, but also in an isolation state for those of you who like to take graphs into your presentations. That's a nice screen share right there. And then, like I mentioned, the famous waffle chart, which can show updates on a change for the asset over history. And then it also has some really neat isolation states as well. As you can see, I can click and I can hover and also get more deep insight around this asset, depending on the area of the section that I click. So again, just that progressive disclosure of data helps save you that data overload to make this graph really nice and clean. We also updated this columns table, which was there before. You can see it's a little cleaned up now and also has some really fun interactions for you to be able to see stats about the columns. So this is accessible also in the columns tab when you're looking deep into your column, or from the stats tab. So column stats is something that is enabled. And you can see different data around that. So again, you can see some tables, some null values, some distinct values graphed for you, depending on the type of data that's in the column. So again, this is accessible from either the stats tab within the side panel, or if you go directly here to the stats tab. So again, it's just some neat new things within DataHub 1.0 release, which are really exciting to share with the community. So speaking of community, we wouldn't be here without our users. So this is the call out to be involved in the process of user experience. We value our community's voice, and we want to value your input as part of product design. So one of the big initiatives within product design is user research, because again, back to our values, feedback fuels quality. So this is our call out to join our user research panel. You can scan that QR code or click the link in the chat, which will be shared. And this will put you into a forum to be able to get some insights around, what interests you in the platform, and you can be involved in our research panel. And what that does is put you into our go-to group for feedback on new and existing features that DataHub is working on. So your contribution will definitely help shape the future of DataHub, either by being involved in user interviews where we can chat with you and understand your behaviors, needs, motivations, what you need from DataHub. Or also you can be involved in usability tests where you can get a first look at some of the rough designs that we're working on and some of the ideas and give some feedback early on to help us shape the product more attuned to our users. So those are two really exciting opportunities that you can be involved in. And obviously our community has given us so much that we're really excited to roll out the research panel. So again, only can be a part of it by scanning that QR code or clicking the link for you to be able to help shape and contribute to the future of DataHub. Thank you so much, everyone. It was so great being part of this.
Awesome. Thank you both, Paulina and Anna. It is incredible how much thought and work goes into designing the user experience, and really exciting to see how the community can help to shape that in the product moving forward. So we can't wait to see how everyone here explores DataHub 1.0. So now we're going to switch gears a bit. We've got some very cool updates coming from our partners at Block. So Harshal, one of our very own team members, joined them to dive into some of these exciting developments. Here you go.
Hello, everyone. Today we're chatting about data discovery with AI agents. Just a quick agenda. First, we'll do some intros. Then we're going to demo some cool stuff we've been working on. And then we'll talk more about AI agents and what the future has in store. So first, some introductions. My name is Sam Osborne. I'm a software engineer working on data platforms and data governance at Block, formerly known as Square. We drive economic empowerment with our various brands, Square for merchants, Afterpay for buy now, pay later, and Cash App for retail banking. And being a bank and financial services company, as you can imagine, we've got a lot of data and a lot of data platforms to manage. This is a pretty broad, good overview of the most commonly used tools and platforms here at Block, but we've got a list of probably 50 different platforms of various shapes and sizes that we eventually want to catalog in DataHub. And applying good data governance at our scale is complex. So let's start with some wins for data governance at Block. Last fall, we onboarded to DataHub Cloud and began ingesting our most important platforms and data assets. Up top, you can see how far we've gotten in the past few months. And we're already seeing great organic growth even before we've begun cataloging things for data consumer use cases like discovery and impact analysis, because for compliance and regulatory reasons, our primary goal was to inventory the highest priority data across the most used platforms and kind of get to completeness first, and then start focusing on data discovery use cases after that. And there's still plenty of opportunities for improvements, including broader cataloged coverage of our many data platforms and assets. And it's a complex web of stakeholders and competing priorities to balance as we're trying to ingest all this stuff in DataHub. Data governance means a million things to a million different people, as you can see from this complex diagram in the bottom right. If you can't read the words in the little boxes, that's okay. It's just showing the complex interconnected web of all these different data governance concepts. And so things like access control and cost attribution and ownership and quality and security of PII data and stuff like that. So it's difficult to meet everyone where they're at across the company with any existing kind of pseudo governance standards or tools or data. And so that's pretty much where we're at today. And then recently AI agents entered the scene.
Cool. And now we're going to dive into a couple of demos of what we've been working on. So the first is in Claude Desktop. And here I've configured Claude Desktop is just like the Anthropic tool for interacting with their LLM. I've added a configuration so it can now talk to DataHub. And so I can ask it a question like, what data do we have related to pets? For context, this is connected up to a demo instance that we have, which is a pet adoption agency. And so it has information about pets and profiles and adoption status, things of that nature. So as we can see here, it's starting out by searching across our DataHub backend. Then it's going to go and fetch a little bit more information about each thing. And then we'll be able to see, once it kind of turns through all of this, it will give us a nice summary. Awesome. And here we are with the summary after it kind of did a thorough search across our backend. So it's telling me about kind of the core data sets that are here, as well as where some of these things are visualized. It will highlight what some of the key metrics are associated with pets and this adoption agency. So adoption rate, return rate, and foster failure rates. And it also gives me a little bit more information about how I could use it. And of course, I can ask follow-up questions like, tell me more about pet profiles. And it will be able to tell me a little bit more information about that as well. Cool. Yeah, here we are. Give me the row count. Only that's like an important data set. It's giving me the full schema with some information about it. There's some active incidents related to it. Great. And now we can kind of understand what this thing is all about. Well, of course, we can also go into something like Slack and do a similar thing. So in here, maybe I can do something like, hey, I'm planning on, I can at DataHub, and I can say I'm planning on changing the color column and ask it what things will be impacted. You can see I've been playing around with this in the past. And here, if we look at the thread, let's make this a little bit bigger, I'll be able to see it kind of thinking and searching through our backend. And then it will be able to write up a response here. So now we can take a look at the response. It tells me what is directly impacted by this, as well as a couple tables that are, 2 hops away and might be impacted. And, basically traverse the lineage. And then I can ask it something like, hey, at DataHub, who needs to know about this change? Who do I need to talk to in order to make sure that people are aware that something is changing? So once again, we can run the query and get some responses back. Cool. And we can see here, there's a bunch of different owners on this. There's a couple of technical owners, a couple of data stewards, and then a business owner as well. And so we can, make sure that we communicate this change out to them effectively. With that, I'll hand it over to Sam to talk about how they've integrated this experience into their own workflows.
All right, so what I'm going to demo is Goose, which is an open source AI agent that Block released a few months ago and has deep support for the MCP standard via extensions. So what I'm going to demo is a data discovery extension that we have been working on here. So data discovery at Block, it's enabled. You can see I'm using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And so just to start off, I'm going to ask it, what tools do you have available And while that's thinking, I'm just going to go into a little bit more about Goose. So yeah, Goose is an open source AI agent, and it can integrate with your local system via these extensions and MCP servers, or it can integrate with remote systems. So here's the data discovery block extension. It's got a few tools. Call get lineage, that calls DataHub. Call get dataset, that also calls DataHub. Call get registry app, that's our internal service catalog and team directory, and then search DataHub entities. And so let me just paste in a little sample test prompt we've been working on or testing with. And while that's working, I'm going to kind of go into deeper what it's going to do here. But so let's say I'm an engineer investigating a data incident. There's a Snowflake table called all hammers. And I need to find that table in DataHub. And first I need to verify if it's the right one, because there might be many with kind of slightly different names. But once I find the right one, I need to look upstream and find some data owners of upstream assets, and then figure out how to contact them via email or Slack or whatever, PagerDuty, so that I can pull them into this incident and help them, or get them to help us investigate. And so first what it's going to do is it's going to search DataHub for dataset entities using the all hammers search term. It found a URN. Then it's going to get the dataset info. And once it does, it'll print out some information about it. So this one's got some important tags. This looks like the right table. And so I'll say, yeah, that's the right one. Can you search upstream and find the data owners so you can contact them? And so now it's going to use the lineage tool with DataHub and search upstream lineage. And then it's going to get some data owner metadata that's in DataHub about those upstream assets. And then it's going to call our internal service catalog and team directory to find some communication channels. And so we'll just let this think for a little while, because this is using the Anthropic API. And then it'll print out a nice little summary here of the upstream assets that it found and some contact information. And it looks like this table is owned by Thor. I can get in touch with Thor in the I Am Thor channel. Just for the record, it's Thor, the god of thunder. And so I should just note that we didn't want to leak internal emails and Slack channels, so we had to use some testing data for this demo as well. But quick demo, and but that's kind of the point. It basically shows how these AI agents, powerful LLMs like Claude, and tools that are surfaced via these MCP extensions in the standard allow us to basically glue together and stitch together a bunch of these multiple different tools and take something that might have taken hours or days or even weeks to track down owners and get in contact with them, turns it into just a few short, simple conversation messages with one of these agents.
And with that, I'll share one more demo that we can, that demonstrates how we can make this work kind of in workflow in IDE. So this is a DBT project that I have loaded up in Cursor, the AI-powered IDE. And here, once again, I've configured my IDE so that it can talk to DataHub. And then I have gone ahead and made a change to this. Yes, I'm not. And so if I run like get status or get diff, you can see that I have replaced the age M and age Y columns with a single column that just computes the total age in months. And then I can go into chat over here and say, hey, data, looking at this diff, check DataHub, what will break if I make this change? And this way I can kind of know exactly what needs to change, or what will be impacted by this change without actually even leaving my IDE. And so once again, it will, figure out this is a pet details.sql that corresponds to a DBT model. I can go find that in our backend, look at the lineage for it, figure out how else this table is being queried. And then that way it will be able to tell me that, for example, there are no direct queries for this thing. And so, it may not directly impact anything, but it has a high query count for the overall table. And so there might be some other downstream consumers. And so we're probably okay, but we should proceed with a little bit of caution. And now I will switch back to the slides and we will talk through how this actually works.
All right. So we showed off some demos of different AI agents, Claude, Desktop, and Goose. And we also showed an existing application that's been integrated with some of these LLM and MCP things. And so what is an AI agent? An agent orchestrates the context management of your conversation and the calls to and from these LLMs. So it's kind of, in the simplest sense, basically a very thin wrapper around these LLMs, kind of like the chat interface that we're all familiar with ChatGPT. But then you can start adding all of these things on top of it. And so the context here is that's your history of all the back and forth messages with an LLM in a single session. But if you're starting to use tools and you're integrating with systems, either your local system or remote systems, having a standard for all of those things to integrate together and different types of agents like Claude or Goose or existing applications like Cursor, the MCP model context protocol can help standardize that. But it's there's a lot of terms here. So I think we just wanted to highlight that agents are also LLM applications, can also be MCP clients. They kind of are all the same thing bundled in applications. They talk to the LLMs, and then they can also talk to these external data services or systems like DataHub, Google Drive, Snowflake, your local system, and so many more things. And so what is the MCP server or the MCP spec or the MCP standard, the model context protocol? We've talked a bunch about it, but so the model context protocol is an open standard protocol to bring existing tools and data into the context of AI interactions. And the context is your conversation. And so if you could somehow inject into your conversation in the context that you're having with this LLM, querying data sets and getting results back, calling services or tools and getting responses, reading, writing stuff to memory, the MCP standard basically kind of wraps all of that stuff, and that can become an MCP server for some specific use case or some specific external server. And so we've talked a little bit about agents and the MCP spec. We did some demos of codename Goose. Goose is the open source AI agent that Block released. It's model agnostic, so you can connect to any model providers and different models. The MCP spec was released by Anthropic a few months ago. It's an AI native standard open protocol. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about some collaboration that we've been doing with Acrel. When the MCP spec was released and Goose was open sourced, we started discussing how we could collaborate on a open source DataHub, official DataHub MCP server. And then we also started looking at some Python SDK improvements that Acrel has been working on that are pretty cool and kind of tailored for these AI applications. And all three of those things are open source that you can check out on GitHub. The links are down below. So I know I've already demoed this and talked a little bit about it, but codename Goose, it's your on-machine AI agent. It connects to your choice of models and providers and supports the MCP standard via extensions. And this is a little demo video that is on the Goose homepage if you go check it out. All sorts of cool different things that people are using Goose to do and simplify their workflows. And so I just kind of wanted to highlight that all of this stuff, the agents, the MCP standards, DataHub, it's helping us onboard users faster and integrate with other internal services that we haven't quite centralized and cataloged in DataHub yet, but it's very exciting. We're just scratching the surface. So I talked a little bit about the collaboration we did on the open source MCP server for DataHub, and then the Python SDK improvements, which I believe are released already, if not hopefully pretty soon, but around searching entities and lineage that are optimized for AI integrations to kind of give a little bit of context to the LLMs and then give them the kind of the hooks for them to keep crawling the different data that it's returning, so it doesn't blow up the context window, but also can really search through all of the different complex entities that DataHub surfaces for a complex data ecosystem like Block has. But and so what comes next? What does the future have in store? So the MCP spec is adding a number of things. It's adding some stuff around authorization with OAuth, things for sampling and streaming, which are going to support real-time applications, a public registry with verified MCP servers. And I think over the next few months, I'd definitely expect to see a bunch of official and unofficial MCP servers popping up for all sorts of different apps and services that we already use every day.
Yeah, it's a super exciting time. I think the MCP spec fits into kind of the broader philosophy of DataHub, which is that standards matter, portability matters, and the more things you can do with your metadata, the more powerful it is. And so in general, we have a philosophy of leaning into standards. So, we implement the open lineage standard. We recently added the Iceberg REST catalog standard. And now we're adding the MCP model context protocol standard. And really all of these are ways to interact with the metadata that you have in DataHub more effectively and get more value out of your ecosystem. So super excited for that. And as Sam said, everything's open source. The Block team, I believe, is also going to be kind of contributing to the MCP server as well. And so, we'd love to get other contributions there, but really just love for you guys to give it a spin and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and here's just some of those links again. There's also a YouTube video there for the MCP spec by somebody from Anthropic that's about 2 hours long, but they dive deep into more of the different things you can do with the MCP standard. And then Goose and the official DataHub MCP server are both up on GitHub as well. Definitely check those out. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to, but this is just a little pro tip when you're using agents or just chatting directly with LLMs. We talked about context and how these agents pull all this stuff in from these external servers, can quickly blow up the context, and you can run out of the context window. So a pro tip, keep your sessions short, make it periodically summarize everything you've chatted about and then paste that out and then back into a fresh session. And an agent like Goose with your local machine makes this really nice and easy. You can just say something like, okay, now I want you to summarize this chat. And when I approve the final draft, write it out to a file in my docs folder and then pick it back up. And so with that, that's AI agents and DataHub and data discovery.
Thank you very much, Harshal. This is a very cool project, and we're excited to see and learn more about it. Let's go ahead and hand it over to our co-founder and co-founder and CTO Shirshanka to help kind of wrap up highlights from the day.
Overall, very excited to see how fast the project is moving and the cool things that are coming up. Let me quickly share my screen. And a quick correction on what Harshal shared. Everything that was demoed, except for the Slack app, is open source. So the MCP server is open source. Goose is open source. Claude desktop, anyone can download and get. Cursor, whoever has access to it can use. However, the Slack app is only available in the DataHub Cloud Edition. So cool. Closing thoughts. Loved to see how fast the UI is improving, and the fact that 1.0 is actually out there and starting to get used. Thanks for all the feedback on the channel. Lots and lots of great feedback, and rest assured the product and the design team are looking carefully at every single piece of feedback you send our way, as well as the platform team. So lots of good permissioning questions on the chat today. We're going to take a close look at them and then come back and communicate at the next town hall. The other thing that is interesting and worth reminding us of is, what is DataHub for? What are the problems it solves? And so if you think about, the world of today, or maybe this seems so much like yesterday, there are some hard problems that we want to solve for humans. And that really starts with understanding the end-to-end context that flows from production systems to ingestion transformation systems to lake and warehouse systems and all the way out to BI systems and now AI systems. So our goal really is to help connect the dots between your entire data and AI supply chain and provide that missing context that can really drive so many questions that humans have on top of that supply chain. So, if you're a data consumer, you're trying to figure out if a data set is trustworthy, easy to find, easy to understand, understanding if you can diagnose discrepancies in business metrics, et cetera, et cetera. If you're a data engineer, you care a lot about whether your data pipelines are running on time, whether you're able to make changes with confidence. Harshal demoed a few of those examples today. And then if you're the governance team, of course, you're very nervous about all of the sensitive data, and you're trying to make sure that you can track the access and usage of all of this while you're also managing access requests coming from humans. And in addition, as AI starts taking hold and getting shipped to production, you're of course worried about making sure that you can monitor the data that's in use by those models. And so a lot of humans have hard questions that need that missing context to be stitched together and presented in a cohesive way. And that's where DataHub shines. But what we're seeing is that the future is upon us, and there's not just supply chain complexity that exists for humans, but also for machines. And when we talk about machines, of course, we're talking about AI models. These are systems that are running in production and need to understand when they should be refreshing their predictions or understanding what's the latest enterprise content that they can use to respond. When it comes to AI governance, we want to make sure that a model that is serving in production is not using cross-customer contaminated data. Imagine you're a product that is serving multiple customers, and those customers are actually competitors. You obviously don't want to have the AI model train across those two customers and then start suggesting things that kind of make multiple customers have access to a proprietary IP. Things like that are super important. And so AI governance needs to be machine-oriented to kind of make those problems disappear. And then, of course, understanding which AI models have access to PII data, et cetera, are important problems in that bucket. And then finally, of course, we saw a lot of agentic applications today on the discovery side, on the troubleshooting side, on the change management side. But we're also seeing the rise of autonomous agents that won't even have a human kind of driving it, right? So you'll have situations where agents are going to be autonomous. They're going to be looking at data on their own, transforming it, creating new data sets. And of course, those agents are going to need to answer or get access to data that they need to query, or they need to be able to leave behind the breadcrumbs so that we can actually ensure that the actions of agents are also being monitored and are correct. So really what we're seeing is this interesting moment in time with the industry is moving from being hyper-focused on how humans can get more out of data and hyper-focused on how humans can get access to data with less friction, et cetera, to saying, well, humans are important, but machines might be starting to become even more important. So let's make sure that we can figure out how to get machines the same kind of context that they need to act at the right time. Of course, humans are super important and will continue to be. All of the business context is usually locked up in people's heads. And so DataHub's job really is to acquire context at the right spots, either by shifting left or shifting right, and then translating and transporting and refining that context and making it accessible to machines, to agents, to AI models, et cetera. So that's really what we see ourselves doing. And so if that seemed really long and complex and you wanted to get a really quick TLDR of what's happening, the agents are coming. I don't think we can stop it. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but DataHub is getting ready for them.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, Shirshanka. And thanks again to everybody who joined us today. It's definitely been an exciting town hall, but filled with lots of insights, some great demos, and some really good information. We will be following up later today with a recording and more details. But in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out to us on Slack, drop us any questions, and we're more than happy to jump into a conversation. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Happy town hall, everybody. We'll see ya.